Chiefs Kingdom, welcome back to All Chiefed Up. We're back with another podcast for that ass. And today, Steve, they put the pads on at camp. Day one for pads, day one of hitting each other. And the story of the day was a lot of injuries going around. Matt Derrick tweets, Chiefs with pads on for the first time today at camp. Nick Bolton was back from his illness. No sign of Chris Jones, Tony, Turk Wharton, and Isaiah Moore. But we also seen Drew Tranquill be injured. Tranquill walks off the field with trainers without his helmet. He actually said he was carted off up the hill. No word on why. We learned that it is a neck injury. Jody Fortson was in visible pain. He hurts his shoulder. And then Mike Dana leaves with a calf injury. So, Steve, what about all these injuries, man?
Man, before we get to the injuries, do your boys a favor and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're trying to get to 20,000 subscribers before the end of the season. Help us out. Hit that sub button, hit the like button to get this out to more Chiefs fans. Mike, injuries are expected right here in camp. They've been all off season without hitting, right? They've just been chilling, working out and everything. So it's to be expected. It's super hot outside. It's ridiculously hot. There's all kinds of stuff going on. So I'm not super worried about there being injuries on day one. The only one that concerns me slightly, well, I'll say two. Jody Fortson's shoulder. Anything with Jody Fortson, it concerns me because he is always plagued with injuries. This guy has been so much of his career because of injuries, and usually when he gets hurt, it's something serious. So hopefully it's nothing big with Jody. This is a year he has to get out there and actually prove to everybody that he's worthy of being on this team, because right now people are questioning him, man, because he's missed so much time. He hasn't really got to get out there and showcase what he can do. And then, of course, Drew Tranquill, he was our best offseason acquisition, in my opinion. And the neck is nothing to mess with. So neck injuries scare me a little bit. Hopefully it's just something tiny like a muscle strain or something, and it'll be okay. But we'll learn more about it later. But, I mean, really, injuries are to be expected this early on.
We've seen P.J. Green say Fortson went down after trying to catch a slot fly ball from Blaine Gabbert, holding his right wrist / forearm area. He did jog off the field under his own power. Jody Fortson is one that we have to hope stays completely healthy this season. He can't get out there and keep missing games after game after game. We've been waiting for the Jody Fortson breakout now for years, and we thought this was the year he could get it together. He's already off. First time pads come on, he gets hit. He got, I think somebody rolled up on him. I think that's what Pete Sweeney actually said. I will bring that up in just a second. He says that Cole Christensen rode on top of him during a play in 11-on-11. Come to find out, they thought it was his forearm or his wrist. It was his shoulder. Let's hope it's not nothing crazy. Maybe he just kind of dislocated a little bit. Maybe they'll pop that bad boy back in there, get him going. Like you said, Drew Tranquill, he's got a little bit of an injury history, not as bad as Jody Fortson by any means, but a neck. You don't want to see a neck thing at any point because the neck is one of those, fragile parts of the body. You don't want to see it. But like we said, maybe his pillows and stuff suck being up there in St. Joe's at camp. Who knows?
Let's blame it on that.
Right. Mike Dana, you see Tysher tweets at the very end. Mike Dana left practice early with injuries. Come to find out that was a calf injury. Pete Sweeney says that Andy Reid said Drew Tranquill strained his neck, Jody Fortson hurt his shoulder, and Dana strained his calf. Steve, it's just early in camp. It's just typical camp bumps and bruises. Does Chiefs Kingdom have anything at all to be concerned about here so far?
I would not be concerned. We'll see what they say about these injuries. But like I said, man, I think people's just pumped to see Jody Fortson get on the field because there's been a lot of talk about the tight end room. We were talking about, should we draft one? Is it time to draft one to have a successor to Kelsey and everything? Because Kelsey's not getting any younger. Right. And we don't know how much time he has left in this league. And we also know that they have to pull back on some of his snaps. I'm a big Noah Gray guy. I think that Noah Gray is going to step up. But people want to see what Jody can do, man, because Jody's been able to get out there and have some highlight plays when he's available. And I think that he could do the same thing this year. But yeah, man, overall, not a huge deal. Let's just hope that none of them come back serious at all. It's probably just your typical bumps and bruises on your first day of pads, man.
Right. Well, you mentioned highlight play. We had one today from Mahomes to MVS. Mahomes dials long distance on the second play of team drills, fires a beauty to MVS over the middle. He beats Mike Edwards in coverage for a touchdown. I actually have the footage. Let's roll that right now. You're going to see MVS get behind Mike Edwards. Looks like Snead, too.
There
for
we go,
6
baby.
points. 6 points right
That's
there.
what I'm talking about. This is the kind of stuff I've been wanting to see, man. MVS can get behind the defense. End of story. We saw it a lot last year. And what I love is Patrick Mahomes actually hit him in stride right there, and that's an easy touchdown for MVS in any game. And I think that there were times that could have happened last year, and the ball just wasn't placed where it should have been. I'm hoping Mahomes gets back into a little better deep ball accuracy this season, now that he's had a whole season to work on that, getting underneath the defense and taking what the defense gives him type thing. Now he can kind of play both sides of the fence.
Right. Well, shout out to KC Sports Network for that footage. That's awesome. Thanks for letting everybody use that and showing the kingdom what's going on there. We seen in that clip, if you look, Rashee Rice was actually in the slot, and Justin Watson was starting out there with the team. This was the second play. Justin Watson was out there starting. They also said Justin Watson had a nice snag on the run in the middle during a 7-on-7 drill. He's reliably caught anything thrown his way today. So it looks like Justin Watson had a pretty good day. He was out there with the ones a lot. We didn't hear as much from Rashee Rice. We thought he would turn it on once the pads came on because he is physical. However, this is the first time he's going up against professional DBs with pads on. And as we said in our live earlier, these guys that they're going against are some of the top, most physical DBs in all of football. They may go against harder people in our practices than they will week to week.
Right, for sure, and it's awesome. It's just going to make everybody better. That's all there is to it. So I'm excited to see what Rashee Rice can do at an NFL level. We like the different elements that he brings to the team as far as wide receiver goes. We've talked about how he's a jump ball guy. It's what he did in college. We want to see him make these contested catches, high pointing balls, being aggressive.
Yep.
How well can he execute that against NFL level DBs? We don't know for sure yet. So it'll be good to start seeing that play out in the weeks to come. That way we'll know what to expect. But I'm super excited to see him in the preseason, for real.
Right. Well, he burned Mike Edwards there, and a lot of people are like, hey, I thought he was a ball hawk. Why is Mike Edwards getting burned like that? Mike Edwards got his revenge. Roll the clip. There it is. So what you're going to see right there, man, is Patrick Mahomes tried to take a shot. He tried to take a shot to Sky Moore. He underthrows it. Mike Edwards picks it off. And Mike Edwards is a ball hawk. We brought this guy in to do this.
Yeah.
These DBs are not going to get pushed around over and over and over again. And to be honest, the offense struggled today. It was not a good day for the offense. The first team offense, the passing game, everything about it has to be not worrisome, but they cannot be very pleased with what happened out there today.
Right. I mean, it's the first day with pads on and everything. There's a lot of new faces on that offense. Things are a little bit different. So it's going to take some time for them to work it out. If you see this tweet from PJ Green here, he says, long drive period ends with a Mahomes incompletion. Don't think the Chiefs offense has enjoyed their performance in the first day of pads very much. So yeah, like you said, it's okay to be down on a little bit because these guys, they hold themselves to a high level of standard. So I think they'll start executing better the more comfortable they get. And it's the first day, man. No big deal. No big deal.
Yeah. Speaking of first days, we've seen Najee Johnson get out there with the ones a lot over the past few days. But actually, when it come out and it counts a little bit, it looks like Jalen Watson got the nod at first team. Watson's out there with Trent McDuffie in the slot. L'Jarius Sneed was also on the outside on the boundary. That looks like the way they're going to row. Actually, though, when they got to the team drills in the second team and the second half of practice, they come back out. And Nick Jones, Josh Williams, and Najee was the first team. Najee even had a nice pass breakup covering Justin Ross. So it looks like we are seriously deep at corner, which we've been saying this over and over. You got a 7th-round pick in Nick Jones that's coming out. He's looking like he is now playing firmly for that 53-man spot. He's not accepting that he's a practice squad guy. Najee Johnson, he started with the practice squad last year. He's put in a lot of work. He's not taking that anymore either. He wants to make the team as well. These DBs are some of the most physical, ball-hawking DBs in all of football, and it is great to see, man, because they give these receivers fits today.
Absolutely, and that spells trouble for a one Mr. L'Jarius Sneed because he's on that contract year. We don't want him to get Rashad Fenton out of here mid-season. You never really know. It could happen. I doubt they're going to pay him after this year, man. He's earned his right to a big, long contract, and the Chiefs just don't give those to cornerbacks. We've talked about that time and time again. But let's just say L'Jarius Sneed is traded off. or he doesn't come back next season, no worries for me, man, because we got a hell of a cornerback room. I mean, even the guys that are probably not going to make the squad, like Khalif Hallisey, he plays a lot like L'Jarius Sneed. I mean, he's just long, fast, physical. We have a very deep defensive back room, and they're very young, so I think we're in a very good spot when it comes to that.
Right. Justin Ross, everybody's asking about Justin Ross. How did he do when the pads come on? Hey, he's a physical wide receiver. We seen him make a nice grab on Trent McDuffie the other day, catching a lot of hype. He was out there today. He matched up on Nick Jones. He beat him on a beautiful comeback route. It says a lot of explosiveness in his route running and working to beat physical press. That's what he did. He was also up against another physical corner, Khalif Hallisey, but he drops the pass wide open and drops the pass. We're seeing a few drops from Justin Ross. He can't really have these mental errors, Steve, because he's still right there on that 53 cut line. We talked about Kadarius Toney's injury might help him. That may be something that does help him. But at the same time, you can't have these mental mistakes. Justin Ross has a very, very thin margin of error right here.
Absolutely. We've talked about it time and time again that it's going to be tough for him to make this squad as is. But now with the injury concerns with Kadarius Toney, I think that does help him out. But with Justin Ross, there's been so much hype around this kid. Ever since we signed him as a UDFA, everyone thinks he's going to come in and be the greatest thing ever. And yeah, we know how good he can be. We've seen it in college when he was with Clemson. His ceiling's super high. But the thing about it is, Mike, for him to make this squad and to be effective, he's got to just start with the little things and doing the little things right and build from there. And the first thing first, if you're a receiver, you have to catch the ball, especially when you're wide open. So if he can get that under control, it looks like he's running routes well. And I think that him and Mahomes are going to have a pretty good chemistry. So the sky's the limit for him. He's just got to get the little things knocked out and make sure that, he's dotting his I's, crossing his T's, and all that good stuff, man.
Right. We've seen from the defense today, we've been talking about offensive lines, defensive lines. When the pads come on, this is when they shine. We've seen that Andy Reid said he was pretty impressed with the way the offensive line come together today. They looked a lot better than he expected them to look. We even seen that they were opening up gaping holes there on the offensive line between Trey Smith and Jawan Taylor and different things. But a lot of people wanted to know what's going on with this defensive end room. Felix was kind of quiet today. We didn't hear much from Felix. We didn't hear much about Karlaftis. But we did hear from two guys that people kind of forgot about. Malik Herring says he looks solid in team and has a couple of nice speed rush wins one-on-one. Malik Herring has been noted by Steve Spagnuolo as one of the defensive linemen they're expected to step up, and today he has done fairly well. Steve, Malik Herring, we've been hearing about him. He made the team last year. Does Malik Herring have a solid argument that he should be on this 53 this year, especially if they're not going to bring back a veteran like Carlos Dunlap?
Yeah, man. I mean, it just depends on his play. If he plays well and he makes the squad, he's going to earn his way on there, right? That's just how you have to do it.
Right.
But we talked about this on a live stream a little while ago, Mike. We were talking about, are we looking at this wrong? Is Malik Herring and Joshua Kando, instead of them having one foot out the door, are these guys that Spags is expecting to step up and do a lot this year and not going and getting that defensive end, the veteran presence that they have been doing with Carlos Dunlap, Melvin Ingram, Terrell Suggs, that type of thing? Is it, hey, we're not doing this year. We're not getting the old guy to come in here and right the ship and keep you guys in check. We're gonna expect you two, who's been around now for a while, and everyone's had their name in your name in their mouth.
Right.
But you haven't done anything yet. It's time for you guys to step up, Joshua Kando and Malik Herring. So, yeah, it's a possibility, man. But it's going to be a good battle on defensive end. I'm not worried about Felix being quiet on day one. Not a big deal. I still have high hopes for Felix. And we all know George has been working super hard in the offseason, and he looked good last year as is. So I do like where our defensive ends are. I think that we're a good young team. We heard a lot about Charles Omenihu today, by the way. He had a big day. If you look at what P.J. Green had to say, he says defensive end Charles Omenihu has gotten consistent pressure today from inside and out. Rotated in with the ones and twos today in various periods, and Joshua Kando has also had some good reps as well. So, yeah, I mean, a pretty good defensive end room. It's not exactly the most proven defensive end room in the world, but it's kind of like, how we talked about our receivers. There's just a lot of talent there. We just don't know. There's a little bit of question marks, so there's going to be some talk about it.
It's good to see Omenihu actually coming on. This could be a breakout year for Charles Omenihu. He's been getting progressively better every year. Maybe he figures it out. Kando's going to have to do something just groundbreaking, I believe, this offseason. Like,
Yeah.
he may have to hit double-digit sacks in the preseason games before this guy can make the roster. But then again,
I think I said before that the only way that Joshua Kando gets onto the 53-man roster is if he creates some type of hostage situation. That's the only way he's getting on here.
That time's yours.
With that, time is yours, Chiefs Kingdom. We're going to look at some comments from our last video drop. Mike, what do we got first?
First one up today, Missouri Tiger 94 says, I know many think Justin Ross won't make the 53-man roster with the other receivers we brought in or signed, but his talent is getting harder and harder to ignore. Steve, we seen this the other day. He's making lots of nice catches out there, but it was when the pads were off. It's when the pads were off. He was going up against air, and he's been dropping a lot against air. We seen today he had another big drop, but he had a few nice wins as well. He had one where he beat Nick Jones. I think Justin Ross is he not the most intriguing wide receiver still on this roster? We still haven't had the answers we need to see out of him just yet.
I think that's a good thing there, that we don't know everything about Justin Ross, but that leaves open this huge possibility that he could be what everyone thinks he is. I think he has the ability. Like I said, we've seen all of his college tape. He was awesome at Clemson. We know what he's capable of doing. It's just he's got to put in the work, and like I said earlier, he's got to do the little things and not be dropping balls and things like that, because he's definitely the most intriguing out of the wide receiver room, because he's like your mystery, right? Like, we don't know what's going to happen here, but we have super high hopes.
Yeah. Do you think Justin Ross, let's assume he makes the roster, what do you think his floor is, and what do you think his ceiling is on receiving yards this year?
On receiving yards, I would say Justin Ross's floor, I would keep it pretty low. I think he's got a very low floor and a very high ceiling.
I honestly think it would be like this. That would be his floor.
Right. No, I would go ahead. I'll be a little more generous. I'll give him a floor of, say, 200 yards receiving on the year. Ceiling's probably around that 650 to 700 mark. But, I mean, if he comes out and just goes absolutely crazy like we think he might, it could definitely be more than that. But like I said, it's boom or bust with Justin Ross. That's why he's so intriguing to everybody, because we want to see what he can do.
I think he's actually so far down the pecking order that even if he does get to 53, barring injuries, I wouldn't put his ceiling no more than, say, 300 to 400 yards. Just because we've seen Sky Moore somewhere around that mark last year. And, you know what I mean? Sky Moore's been around a little longer with a little more experience. But we'll see. Moving on. Comment number 2, Rick87 says, can I say it again for the people in the back row? Richie James is going to ball out this season. Steve, Richie James did a little punt returns today. That was about it. That's all he got out there and did. We got a tweet here from PJ Green. Deneric Prince taking first return reps and kickoffs. Richie James taking the second reps. So that's what he's doing. He didn't shine so much today on the offense, but I do think Richie James has primed himself to make this 53-man roster. And I think he's going to ball out too. I think he's got a very good arsenal of weapons at his disposal.
Absolutely, man. Richie James is primed for somewhat of a breakout year. We all know he had his best years of pro last year with the Giants, with Daniel Jones, and now he's over here with Patrick Mahomes in an Andy Reid offense. How fast can he grasp this offense? That's what's going to make the difference there, because I think Richie James has a lot of the physical traits that Andy Reid loves as a receiver. He's quick. He's twitchy. He can do all those things. We know he's got really good hands. He was one of the most sure catcher in the NFL last year by statistics. So I think, the ball's in his court, man. He's just got to get out there and make it happen. And I'm excited. I think he is going to ball out, dude.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a good year too. Scott Vansel says they can't put him on the PUP list. Speaking about Kadarius Toney. Matt Derrick explained today that if he's not on the 53-man to start the season, he has to go to IR for the year, so that ain't happening. Yeah, we threw around the idea that maybe they could put him on like a PUP or something like that and bring on extra wide receivers. The way the rule's written up, and this is the way it is, a player who lands on IR can also return after 4 games, which the league changed this offseason, but only if placed on the IR after the cut down to 53. So basically, Kadarius Toney would have to take a 53 roster spot. Then they could put him on IR. He'd have to miss 4 games. It says that teams can cut a player on IR with a designation to return at any point throughout the regular season and postseason. Active PUP list designations occur only before the start of training camp. So to get the PUP list designation, they'd have had to do it 4 plays earlier. So Kadarius Toney yet again finds a way to put a little pressure on him.
Make it difficult.
But it looks like the PUP list is out, but they could start him on the IR. He just would have to take a 53-man roster spot, which now in turn says, hey, do we go ahead and take the 7th wide receiver then? I think if you have to go that route, you probably have to take the 7th. If not, they go with 6. But that's pretty much all I wanted to bring that one up for. Pete S6521. Is this Pete Sweeney in disguise? I don't know.
Pete's what?
Weenie. Imagine if Mahomes has another 5,000-yard season and Pacheco rushes for over 1,000 yards. The offense will be even more potent than last year, and if our defense ends up being top 10 this season as well, then look out. I think all that you said, very capable of happening, but it's a slim margin. If Pacheco rushes for 1,000, Mahomes throws for 5,000, and our defense goes top 10, those are all very capable things, Steve. But do you see all that lining up in like this perfect, beautiful package that if it did come together, we would be super hard to beat?
I fully expect all of those things, Mike. I don't think that all stars need to align for that to happen. I fully expect at this point in Patrick Mahomes' career, just what he's proved so far, I automatically assume this guy's going to throw for at least, around 5,000 yards. It's just a given. And then, of course, Isaiah Pacheco, he could have easily hit 1,000 yards last year, but he didn't even really play the first 6 games of the season. Of course, he's got injury concerns. We don't know if he's going to start out this season with a heavy workload, but we'll see. But I think he could easily get to 1,000 yards. And this defense, as long as they can wrap up this thing with Chris Jones and get it off the table, and he's out there on the field, I think we're easily a top 10 defense here. This defense is looking nice. Knock on wood, Drew Tranquill's going to be healthy and ready to go. We got a better linebacker core than we've had in years. Our cornerbacks have been looking excellent. You keep Chris Jones in there, Keandre Holborn comes on, and then maybe even throw in, hey, now we have Charles Omenihu and Felix, who's getting after the quarterback like crazy, along with George Karlaftis. Man, I think all of these things could happen. I think the Chiefs are going to be a force this year if everything works out.
If one of those didn't happen, which one would you think? Top 10 defense, Pacheco for 1,000, or Mahomes throws for 5,000?
I think the most likely to not happen would be Pacheco with 1,000 yards, and that's just because Andy likes to distribute the ball amongst his running backs. If Clyde's healthy, he's going to get a lot of the workload. I think that's the most likely to not happen. I feel like Patrick Mahomes, as long as he's healthy on the field and Travis Kelce's on his team, he's going to throw for a lot. Right. I'm thinking the 5,000-yard mark for him's kind of a basis now. Like, that's just where I expect Mahomes to be at.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, moving on. MJA Mitchell. Mitchie. If I messed it up, I'm sorry. We'll just call you MJ.
You did.
So I appreciate you because I was watching Locked On Chiefs, and they don't look at things realistically at all. They actually said Kadarius Toney getting hurt was a good thing because other receivers will get better. They think his recovery will be short with no further injuries afterwards. They think the Chiefs should trade Chris Jones rather than paying him. They think Mahomes can carry the team, including the defense. I think it's best to criticize Veach and identify problems as well as praise the Chiefs when they do well. I prefer your Chiefs takes. We don't really get to venture out and listen to a lot of things. Steve, does it surprise you if what this guy's saying is true? Does it surprise you that Locked On Chiefs would think that we should just trade Chris Jones rather than paying him? Because that's the one that sticks out, maybe besides Kadarius Toney will never get hurt again.
I don't see Ryan Tracy being on that train, but I could be wrong. Like I said, I haven't got to see it, but I don't think trading Chris Jones is a smart move at all. What are you going to get, man? You're going to get some first-round draft picks that maybe don't even pan out. You're not getting another Chris Jones. This defense, Brett Veach has been constructing this defense the last couple of years to make it a top 10, top 5 defense because he feels, just like most of Chiefs Kingdom, that if Patrick Mahomes has a top 10, top 5 defense, it's going to be very, very freaking hard to beat him on any given Sunday. So I just don't think that you pull the rug out from under that plan all of a sudden. Like, well, let's just go ahead and trade Chris Jones, the anchor of our entire defense. I don't think so, and I also don't think Kadarius Toney getting hurt. There's some silver lining to it, I guess you could say, but it's not a good thing when anybody gets hurt, especially Kadarius Toney, who's supposed to be our wide receiver 1, and he already has that long injury history. I'm never going to say it's a good thing when he has to have a knee surgery.
Yeah, I don't either. I agree with you with everything you said. I don't think you pull the rug on Chris Jones this year. I think you have to pay him. At some point, you have to pay somebody. Like, the Chiefs have to pay somebody, especially a core player like Chris Jones. Moving on, last one we got for the day. Lance from the Spoken says, great show, fellas. So just wanted to shout out Lance.
Look at him.
You do awesome as well, dude. Appreciate you being here and watching us. Well, back to the practices today. It was hot. It was hot. Pads come on. Things got a little chippy. We've seen Travis Kelce get into it with DiCaprio Boodle out there. They said they got into a bit of a skirmish. Boodle kept going after a play, and Kelce didn't take too kindly to that. We actually have that video. I'll roll it right now. If you see Kelce, turns it up. He's going.
Yeah.
They're all punching at the ball. Play's over right here, but look, Boodle keeps going.
Hey.
Kelce throws punches, and then Kelce throws punches at Brian Cook. Kelce was on one today, guys.
Man, I don't blame him a bit. It's hot. It's camp. That play was dead 5 seconds before that. I understand, like, everybody ripping at the ball here and there, but, I mean, come on, dude. Boodle, you pushed it a little too far there, and, you got checked for it. That's all there is to it. Brian Cook, I would suggest you probably stay out of that altogether. Just I know he was trying to cool down some hot heads, but, it is what it is. DiCaprio Boodle is going to be on the practice squad, and Travis Kelce's still going to be the best tight end in the entire NFL when it's all said and done. So it is what it is.
The most surprising thing to me was the assumption that the ones were on the field if Kelce was there, and we seen LaMichael Pirine come into the defense, and we also seen Boodle on the field. So we're assuming that these guys were taking reps with the ones. What can you say?
It's camp, man. They mix it up. They mix it up.
Right. Well, you also seen that Mahomes got in on the jawing action today. Patrick Mahomes had a little talking to with Lamar Jackson. Full pads, but you want guys to stay up and just form-fit tackles. Jackson came in on the end of a Kakoa Crawford rep and hit him a little harder than expected. Got Mahomes off the sideline. Kind of was talking to him. These guys are getting fired up. They're going at it. You're going to expect this. I posted a clip yesterday on Twitter about OBJ fighting with Hendrickson the first day they were at camp over there. Like, these guys just go at it. They get chippy. Is there anything to this, Steve, or is it just camp stuff, man?
No, you made a really great point when we were talking about this earlier, man. It's camp, and it's just another practice, right? But to some of these guys, it's not, man. It's their lifeline to make an NFL team.
True.
Lamar Jackson being one of those, Boodle, another one. Like, these are guys that's going to come out and play at 110% to give themselves the best shot of making the squad. Rightfully so, man. They have to. It's not just another day in the office for them like it is for Travis Kelce. So that's something that he has to keep in mind as well. But no, a little bit of hostility towards the guys. It all comes with a passion, with a fire to play well.
Right.
And then, of course, a little bit of frustration because it's 200 degrees in the devil's asshole St. Joe.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't say it any better. Last thing, Andy Reid was on the mic today. Andy Reid had a presser. They asked him on John Ross retiring. He says he didn't say much. He was just tired of it. I'm sure there was some frustration there. We're assuming injuries probably. He's a smart kid and will make it somewhere. Steve, we think John Ross probably was dealing with injuries. Probably nothing more than that, right?
That would be my guess. I think that he probably was still dealing with injuries, didn't see a good outcome. He had to be super frustrated, man. This is a kid that played well in college at Washington. They hyped him up way too much when he was coming out of college. Joe. Just because he ran a 4.2 didn't mean that he was going to be Tyreek Hill. That's just not how this works.
Right.
But he just never got to really put his full ability on display because of injuries. And when your body's failing you and you know what you are capable of, that's got to be frustrating for anybody. So it sucks to see, man.
Yeah. Andy Reid talked about Rashee Rice today. Said he was a sharp kid, tremendous talent. This is all new to him. Adds he's still learning the pace of how to do things. Mentioned that the quarterbacks like him. He also spoke about Justin Ross and said he's getting better every day. Padded practices will benefit him as a bigger receiver. Steve, the wide receiver room, everybody's still a little iffy. Is it going to be good? Is it not? I think we're seeing a youth movement across the board. We know this is still technically a rebuild for the Chiefs. It's hard to believe that you won a Super Bowl in year one of a rebuild, but we really are into a rebuild. Rice, Justin Ross, what kind of a 1-2 combination could that be if those two were to pan out, man?
I mean, this year, it is what it is. But in the future, man, if everything goes the way we project it and these guys can stay healthy and be on the field, the sky's the limit for these two, dude. I think they could be huge. Rashee Rice, man, a lot of people thought that the Chiefs shouldn't have picked him there. A lot of people thought that was a bad pick, or they took him too high. They thought he was a third-round guy. I think Rashee Rice is out there with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, and I think that he's going to play well. I think that he might get utilized more than the typical Andy Reid rookie just because of injuries and things like that and the way that the wide receiver room has played out. And then, of course, Justin Ross, there's just so much hype. There's so much hype with Justin Ross, and he's got to get out there and prove himself, man, because we put a lot on his shoulders as Chiefs Kingdom to be great. And I think he definitely wants to cash in on that and show us that he can do it.
Yeah, I think Justin Ross has all the intangibles to do it. I think Rashee Rice definitely shows all the intangibles. I think both of them is going to be fine within time. I hope Ross can find a way to make the 53-man because I really do think somebody will poach him off the practice squad. He might not even clear waivers to get on the practice squad, let's be honest. And then Andy Reid spoke about Chris Jones. Last thing on the day was the Chris Jones. Andy Reid said he's not heard from Chris Jones the last few days, doesn't have a timeline as to when he may report. We're going full speed even without him here. Steve, we're going to keep talking about it because it's here. Chris Jones is holding out. Is this becoming a problem, or is this still just a big nothing burger?
I'm going with the nothing burger, man. It's pretty typical for guys in their, contract talks to not be at camp. He don't want to go in there and get injured and lose all leverage. There's all kinds of different ways to look at this. We did see on Instagram that he is still working.
Yep.
So that's good to see. I think something's going to get done, man. It's just taking some time. I don't think it's necessarily how much money he wants to get paid per year. A lot of people's like, oh, he wants $30 million and Chiefs will never pay him that. That's fine. But I think his number's somewhere between that $25 million and $30 million mark. It's right around in there somewhere. And I don't think it's so much about how much money is Chris Jones going to get paid per year. I think it has to do with the amount of years in the contract, how much guaranteed money's in there, the way it's structured. There's so much that goes into this. And both sides are fighting to get the best deal that they can. That's just the nature of the beast. And it's going to get done, man. It's going to take a little bit of time, but it's going to get done. I'm not worried about it. Chris Jones is under contract. He has to play for the Chiefs this year regardless, unless he wants to pull a Le'Veon Bell. So
he's not going to hold out.
I'm not worried about it whatsoever. And I seriously think within the next week we'll probably see something get done.
I hope so. We should start a poll. And instead of when is the woman going to give birth, we'll say, when's Chris Jones going to give birth to a training camp debut? But yeah, man, that's going to wrap it up for today. We appreciate you guys being here. Watch this video that you think YouTube thinks you guys are going to like, and be sure and hit that like button for us. And thanks for subscribing, clicking that bell. We'll catch you guys next time. There goes a sight from my soul. Cause the side